Welcome to Wild and Finally Fucking Free, the show for disruptors, rebels, and revolutionaries who know they're here to change the damn world. I'm Kylie Patchett, your voice and visibility catalyst, and here we dive into unapologetic truth, magnetic messaging, and visibility that actually feels good in your body, your bones, and your business. We share the stories of the out-of-the-box, neuro-sparkly, creative, witchy wild ones, rewriting how we live, love, learn, and lead. This isn't about being louder. It's about being rooted, resonant, and regulated so you can be real, raw, and ready to roar. If you're done contorting yourself to fit the mold and you're ready to own your voice, your power, and your place in the revolution, welcome home. Let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. I had a little break because I've had an ear infection, which has been a bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest. Traveling around the most beautiful snorkeling areas of Bali and not being able to swim was not on my dance card, but we will continue. So I am sitting in the beautiful Ubud in Bali, Indonesia. We're about to fly out tomorrow. So we are just enjoying the final day. It's been a bit rainy on and off. You can probably see there's a bit of cloud in the background here. And so I thought I'd take the time to do a bit of catching up. And what's going on in my world at the moment is I have had multiple conversations centered around identity in the last 24 hours. Different client interactions and also my own ponderings on why I'm feeling so damn discombobulated. And I think, to me, when I think about identity, it's like, where does the who you are right now, who you've been taught to be in the world through conditioning, which may be from your family, it may be from education, it may be all the isms, it could be patriarchy, misogyny, blah, blah, like all of the big systems of oppression. It could be conditioning around the right way to behave from your family. And of course, all the other layers that go to make up who we are, right? And I've been feeling into the gap between the who you were taught to be and the who you came here to be. And you know, if you are a super lucky human being, or maybe, I don't know whether I'd say lucky, but maybe if you're a unicorn human being, you might have ended up growing up in a family where all of the conditioning was really helpful and in alignment to who you were meant to be in the world. And you may have grown up in, an area of the world or got enough life experience of the world where you haven't been particularly impacted by any of the major systems of oppression. Maybe that means that you have grown up in, a particular type of body or a particular type of culture or society or class or whatever. But for the majority of us, we, tag this life purpose. We come down here to have this experience in a skin suit, and the skin suit experience quite often gives us feedback about, our natural way of moving through the world not being particularly correct or right. And so we learn ways in which we need to be approved of, to be loved, to have a sense of belonging, to feel safe. And all of those layers, layer and layer and layer. And then if I go back to like my genetics end of things in training, and even like this was so clear when I had my children, because we have two girls 12 months apart, and they are so different, and they were so different from the time of birth. So there is absolutely, the geneticist in me says that there is like this genetic layer that is to do with identity that is like, it is literally connected to who you're meant to be. So you come down, you've got a genetic imprint, but of course then if you want to layer on top of that, your environment turns on and off genes, and of course your conditioning is going to impact whether you are in your full self-expression or not. So anyway, thinking about identity in terms of like there's this individual you having this individual experience, and that individual experience is absolutely going to be impacted by, yes, your genetics, yes, your epigenetics, yes, the macro systems of oppression, whatever you were impacted by. And of course, the positive forces in the macro system. And then when I think about identity, there's this micro layer of like, yeah, so what side of the river did you grow up? Like when I grew up in Brisbane, like there is such a culture thing between like north side Brisbane, south side Brisbane, inner city Brisbane, outer, you know, more regional, rural edges of Brisbane, although Brisbane's a lot bigger and a lot more spread out now. But there was that sort of thing. There was like, did you grow up and go to a private school or a public school? What sort of friends group did you have? Did you associate, you know, as like the sticky note of like the brainy one, or were you the sporty one, or, you know, and what was going on in your family of origin, right? So all of those layers add up to the who you are right now. And then you start doing shit like, I don't know, going slow traveling for a year, or you are growing a business and you have this side of you that's a very driven part of this identity. And then there's also this like emerging awareness of like, I don't want things to necessarily feel like that. And then we start to question, what's the gap here? Is the who that is speaking in this moment the who that I was meant to be, the who that I was born to be, the who that I came down here to be? Or is it these conditioned parts? And how do I pull them apart, right? Because, you know, I was talking to someone in my new program, Good Girls Do Not Lead Revolutions, which you can get at the link down below this episode. And, you know, the lady was like, why can we not see ourselves for ourselves? And she introduced the analogy that I've heard before as well, as like, you know, you're inside the jar, so you can't see the outside of the jar. You can't see what's in it because you are inside. And it's like, if you're a jar of pickles, you can't tell you're a jar of pickles because you're inside the jar of pickles and you don't know any different. So I think there's that, but I also really truly believe that there is natural turning points or transition points, and for women it absolutely, one of those is, you know, the entry across the threshold of all the major rites of passage. So puberty and how that was dealt with. If you became a mother, the you know, maiden into mother, and even if you didn't become a mother, like there's so many people in my world at the moment who are not, yes, biological mothers, but have mothered and cared and nurtured in so many ways, and often are healers and helpers as well. So there's an identity piece around that. And then this identity of like, okay, so now I'm going through perimenopause or menopause transition. So am I comfortable with the idea of transitioning to the crone? Do I resonate more with this, like, I don't know, like, there's so many different ways of talking about this, and one of the words is the MAGA sort of, or MAGA sort of archetype, and because there's so many connotations in the world with that MAGA word, I don't really want to use them. It's almost like I want to say like the Empress era or the Queen era, or the era of beginning to really, really question when that hormone of accommodation drops and you start looking around going, what the fuck is going on here? That it's really, really important that in these transitions that we are so gentle with ourselves, and yet I want to say radically responsible as well, because there is so much responsibility required when we are going through transitions, and we start to notice that old ways of being, or old ways of approaching, or old ways of self-talk, old ways of being radically self-responsible or not, and the spectrum that comes with those two things, are not working anymore. Or old identities that are, you know, coming online. It's like, I'm so used to working towards something, I'm so used to achieving something or ticking things off, and then I get this sense of like, I don't want to actually move forward anymore. And then the obvious question is, well, who the fuck am I? If I'm not working in that way towards something, like, who am I then? And, you know, as much as it's fucking uncomfortable, there is an inkling inside of me at the moment of like, my level of being able to hold the discomfort of not really knowing what is going to happen as a result of this major transition. And, you know, it's a funny thing because a lot of these transitions are almost like thrust upon us or happen because of like a biological shift or whatever, like the perimenopause transition. But for me at the moment, I find myself, we've been in Bali for a full month, I was about to say year, and I woke up this morning and I felt really like I have had definitely huge chunks of time of really, really strong homesickness, which I thought I would be a little bit homesick, but I have to say not to the extent that I am. I really, really miss our girls. I think if the girls and their partners were with us, then I wouldn't be feeling like this. Like my overwhelming feeling would be, I love this lifestyle of seeing different things and, you know, experiencing different cultures and sitting on a rooftop doing this instead of sitting in my office in country Queensland. My freshly unmedicated ADHD brain loves the newness, and it's wild to me that we've been away for a month and there's 11 more months to go, and there's a part of me that's like, I want to go back to my identity in Australia. I want to go back to having my kids just around. I'm going to make myself emotional. So I want to go back to the familiar because I know how to do that, right? I know. It's so funny too because one of my identities that I've often held, and this is from being like, you know, a hyper individualized person, because those of us who grew up in childhoods where one or several spaces didn't feel safe, you know, you learn to be hyper vigilant, hyper independent, to meet your own needs, to not expect or ask for anything from other people. And so it's funny, one of the things that's dissolving at the moment is like this idea that I am somehow this lone wolf type of person. Like I always kind of almost prided myself on, I don't really need much from anyone. That is absolute bullshit. It is bullshit. I had a moment in the shower, I was like, I am not a lone wolf. I am so a pack animal. And, you know, every other time that we've done any of these big movements, we've done it with our kids, with our family. And so the pack has always come with us, and leaving Australia without the pack has been really testing and trying at times, I have to say. And also, just like the clients that I've been talking to that are in transition, it's like 90% of me wants to be grabbing onto the old identity and going, oh my God, I want to go home. I want to go home right now, and I want to hug my kids, and I want them to be just around the corner, and I want to be there physically anytime they need it, and I want to be back in my garden, and I want to be back in my office, and all of that familiar stuff. And yet there is this bigger but quieter, surer, more calm voice inside of me that says there is something golden that will unfold across the time when I allow that old version of me to let go. Not saying that I will ever love being away from my kids, but there is, my husband and I were just talking about this, a big part of me that's like, yeah, actually there is, you know, you can get into Groundhog Day so much, and you can get into Groundhog Day with your identity as well. It's like, oh, I do it that way because I always have done it that way. And I've always been someone that makes, you know, big, bold moves. You know, I could label that as ADHD, but I also think that there is an adventurer in me that wants to take risks and like fuck around and find out, right? And there's a quiet part of me that's like, yes, you're in the gloop, you're so deeply homesick. There's parts of me that are seriously doubting whether I can do 11 more months, and really, really strongly saying, what have you done? Like, ah! And there is a quieter, surer part of me, just like there is for the majority of us when we're in the, I have this beautiful client, and she's like, I'm in the gloppiness And what she means is that icky state in the in-between. Like, I'm not that old identity, I'm not this one, I'm like somewhere in between. And the letting go and being in free fall between the two trapezes is really fucking scary. But also the wise part of us knows that there's something on the other side. And I think for all of us, there is an invitation to just trust that the wise woman inside of you, your desires, the gloppiness that you feel in the in-between, you can trust it. Like, we're so addicted to ways of being that are so habitual. And when we are in that habituated state, it is so much more, I'm talking from my own lived experience, for me, it is so much more difficult to say, all right, I'm going to make a big change if I'm still in environments or, daily habits where they are almost supportive of the old identity. So I guess my key message for this episode, it was part catch up. She's homesick. Oh my goodness, I've definitely had a day of it. And also, if you're feeling like you're in the space in between, the space in between is just as valid a space as the space where you're rock solid. Oh, did you see that? Butterfly just went past. Yeah, the space in between is as valid a space as when you know exactly who you are and what you're doing and what's next and what you're working towards, and you know how you would capture yourself in words. Because you're not here to stay stagnant, and you're not here to only be the conditioned version of you. You're here to be the full you that you were born to be, and the only way we can do that is continually shed skins. And you know, I might be a wild human being because I love change, but also there's huge parts of me that are terrified by change as well. I think that's a pretty human response. And yeah, it's okay to be terrified. It's okay to be terrified, and it's okay to be homesick, and it's okay to miss parts of yourself, and it's okay to feel like you should be moving forward when you're stagnant, and it's okay to feel gloopy or gloppy or in the mud or stuck, because I think too often we value the feeling of making progress or evolving, but we forget that the dissolving and the grieving of parts of ourselves and the letting go of old identities is just a part of evolution, as the expansion and the wins and the achievement, or whatever it is that we're working towards. So yeah, from me to you, just remember, identity, you know, yes, there's a genetic component, and yes, there's this micro and macro conditioning, but there's also this massive big permission slip that just because you have always been a particular way does not mean you always have to be. And if there is a yearning in your soul for something different, I think it would be wildly, wildly sad and a waste of life force energy to try and resist it. Whew. That's a little note to self, isn't it? Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. If this episode lit a fire in your body, in your business, deep down in your bones, please take a moment to drop a rating and review so more rebels just like you can find us. And don't keep this goodness to yourself. Share it with your disruptor, rebel, and revolutionary friends who are ready to roar right alongside of you. Until next time, stay wild, stay unapologetic, and stay fucking free.